Hello and welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering that's probably wrong but fun to talk about. I'm Shauna, and up there
I'm Leslie.
That's Leslie, and we are here to bring you some of these little mini pre-con deep dives that we've been doing on the new little starter commander decks that are just recently released. They are great little decks for a new to commander player. They have lots of good stuff in them, and it's a reasonably priced thing that you can upgrade. We're going to tell you a little bit about some of the key cards in here and maybe some ideas for that upgrades. But even just at the outset, they're pretty good little decks to play with. And yeah, so without further ado, let's just have Leslie tell us a little bit about this deck and what it's meant to do and how we're supposed to play it.
Sounds good. So this deck is called what?
Oh my goodness, I forgot to tell you. This one is called,
the commander is Asperia Supreme
First
Judge.
Flight. It's called First
and
Flight.
First Flight is the name of the deck if you're looking for it online.
Yes.
But basically this commander is a 6 mana cost, 6/4 with flying, and whenever a creature attacks you or planeswalkers you control, you can draw a card. So it's going to take advantage of some card draw and have some flyers. Basically, though, this deck is all about having tons of flyers, swinging at them overhead, killing them before they can kill you. The mana cost is quite low for most of it. You're going to take advantage of doing combat damage, and you're going to buff up your flyers to make them bigger. So they start out small, but you have a lot of lords in this deck. A lord basically buffs up your whatever it's lording over. Some of the strengths of this deck is that there's lots of card draw, so you're always going to have a full hand, unless they have flying, reach, or something that can ground you. It's going to be hard to deal with you, which is great. Lots of lords in this deck, so you can make your flyers big. However, a big weakness in these types of decks is it is a very creature heavy deck, and so board wipes can basically shut you down. If there's a couple board wipes in a row, every time you build up, you get wiped out. You're going to have a hard time kind of keeping up. So how to play this deck is aggressively, kill them fast, as well as trying to protect your creatures. There are several counter spells in this deck. You're going to want to save those for when the board wipes happen, or when you're, you maybe don't want to worry about whether they get stuff on the board, but board wipes are going to hurt you a lot. So keep those for that. If you want to add more counter spells, you could do that as well, or things that make your stuff indestructible. So we're not going to talk about all the cards in this deck. We're only going to talk about some of the key cards in this deck. There's a lot of great cards, but we're just going to kind of highlight and give you some flavor about what this deck is meant to do based on the cards. So Shauna, why don't you start us off?
So of course our commander is pretty awesome as far as card draw and stuff goes. But we also have Sephara Sky's Blade for 4 and 3 white, a 7/7 that says you can pay 1 white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control that have flying rather than pay this spell's mana cost. So cheat her out as much as you can. She has flying and lifelink, and your other creatures you control with flying have indestructible. So this is a protection already, right? So board wipe happens, this chickie will help you out.
But she is not indestructible. So you need to protect her from direct damage. So if you get her out, that's fantastic. So figure out how to protect her.
Yeah.
Angler Turtle is 5/7, and it has hexproof, and creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able. So this is going to make them not be able to sit back and just think about their strategy. It also means that they're going to be tapped, so that you can, if they do have some flyers, you can swing in and try and get them with hopefully your bigger flyers. Of course, this card means that they may attack you. If they're forced to attack, they're probably going to attack you. So, you give and you take.
And then the little Skycat Sovereign is a little 1/1 flyer for a white and a blue. So really cheap to get out there right away. He gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with flying. And he has on there that he can actually create creatures with flying. So for 2 in white and a blue. So this this little card will do a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
Building up the board. Yeah.
Yeah, Bite into Thassa we thought was a really good card for this deck as well. It's 4 mana cost, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Again, taking advantage of that card draw, keeping a full mitt. And then you can pay 2 and tap it, and creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. So if they're wanting to hold some stuff back as blockers to deal with your flyers, too bad, so sad, you can't do that.
Yeah. Rally of Wings. This is an insane game finishing type card that comes out of nowhere for 1 and a white. It's an instant that says untap all creatures you control. Creatures you control with flying get +2/+2 until end of turn. So swinging away and you untap everything and hit them really hard, possibly killing someone, which is really awesome. Or all of them if you've got big going in all directions.
Yeah. Thought Vessel is a very important card in this deck because of all the card draw that you have. It's 2 mana cost artifact that basically gives you no maximum hand size, so you can keep those cards in your hand. We didn't feel that this deck had enough of that, so if you can add some stuff, which we'll talk about in our tweaks, but this is a good key thing to remember in this deck.
Yeah. So then we have a few lords in this deck. When we talk about lords, these are cards that buff up your entire group of cards. So this one is the Empyrean Eagle for 1, a white and a blue, a little 2/3 flyer that other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. So it's helping you out there.
Yep, and Kangi Lieutenant for 3 is a little 1/1 and with flying, of course. And whenever he attacks, attacking creatures with flying get +1/+1 until the end of turn. So you'll have to figure out some way to keep track of which ones are +1 always, which ones are +1 to the end of turn, and which things are counters, because they are all different things. And so that, I guess, is one thing about this deck, is it's a little hard to kind of wrap your head around what. So take your time, count it up, and figure out what the combat damage is.
Yeah, do the math. Kanji Sky Warden, this is another one that's going to cause you to do the math. A 3/3 for 5, flying and vigilance, though, which is nice. And whenever he attacks, attacking creatures with flying get +2/+0 until end of turn. And whenever he blocks, blocking creatures with flying get +0/+2 until end of turn. Helps you.
I like the versatility of that.
Yeah, both on the attack and the defense, which is nice.
Yeah, and Steel Plume Marshal is another, when he attacks, he's a 5 mana cost 3/3 with flying, and whenever he attacks other attacking creatures you control with flying gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. So again, we said that this is an aggressive deck because it wants you to attack, and that is the proof of it.
Yeah. A little 2/3 Thunderclap Wyvern for 2, a white and a blue. It has flash, which is really nice because other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1, so you can be attacking and then flash this guy in, and they didn't realize you have another +1 on there. So, yep.
And we typically think of lords as creatures, but there are also some cards in this deck that are just buffing up your flyers and or other things. So Gravitational Shift is one of those. For 5, a creature with flying, creatures with flying get +2/+0, and creatures without flying get -2/-0. Now this is a reminder that means they're creatures as well. So if they have flyers, their flyers are going to get bigger. At least on the attack, but creatures without flying across the board are going to get smaller on the power. So that's really fun.
Another nice thing in this deck is that it has lots of little cards that make you little flyers, which is really nice, little flying tokens. We've got the Empyrean Angel, a 3/3 flyer for 2 and 2 white, that whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, you may create a 1/1 birdie. With flying, obviously. Nice.
Yeah. And Fairy Formation for 5 is a 5/4. With flying, you can pay 4 and create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying and draw a card. So nice card draw, as well as creating some more flyers that you can have bigger.
Storm Herd, if you like little Pegasuses that fly. Pegasuses? I don't know if that's right.
Yeah.
This one is a sorcery that lets you create X1/1 white Pegasus creature tokens, where X is your life total. Oh my gosh, that could be a lot.
And Inspired Sphinx is a 5/5 for 7. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw cards equal to the number of opponents you have, which, again, card draw. But it also has this nice little ability for 4. You can create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature artifact token with flying. Remember, all these little 1/1s, yes, they're 1/1s, but we talked about our lords, so they're actually going to be something like 5/5s.
Yep.
It's going to be great.
Migratory Route, it's a little sorcery for 3 and a white and a blue. Create 4 1/1 bird tokens, or you can basic land cycling. So if you're having trouble getting that to plains or whatever you need, you can use this by putting it in your graveyard for 2 and go and look for that card that you're looking for.
It's great. Sharding Sphinx it has a lot of sphinxes in this deck, in case you didn't notice. For 6, it's a 4/4 with flying, and whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying. So that is for each of those Thopters. So you're creating Thopters with the other Sphinx that we talked about, this Sphinx, and when they do combat damage, they're going to just basically make a copy of themselves, and you're going to double your army, which then makes things get bigger. It's kind of crazy. I think we put this next one in the wrong section.
Yes, we should have put this one in Lords, because favorable wins, that was probably me that did that. It's creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. It's an enchantment that every blue-white flyer deck needs to have, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, and now we're on to the part you've been waiting for. How do you make this deck better? That gives you some flavor. So we have some tweaks. Some of them are really powerful. Some of them are just on theme. But basically, we couldn't put them all in here. It was so hard, and we want to hear from you what you would do. Yes. But our first suggestion for this deck is Dream Trawler. For 6, it's a 3/5. It's got flying. It's got lifelink. It's on theme. When you draw a card, which you're going to be doing, Dream Trawler gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. When it attacks, you get to draw another card. You can discard a card, and Dream Trawler gains hexproof until the end of turn. You're going to tap it to do that. Basically, this Dream Trawler Sphinx is ridiculous and hard to deal with, and makes people do table flips.
It does. Then the little wizard class, it is a little saga from what was it? Adventures in Forgotten Realms, I think. And you have no maximum hand size, so that's going to help you out a little bit. Plus, when this class becomes level 2, you get to draw 2 cards. And the little bonus, whenever you draw a card, you get to put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. So that's really helpful too. So that's any of the card draw. You can put counters on things, and I think it'll really be good in this deck, and it's not expensive.
Yeah, right out of the gate, no maximum hand size. So that's really important. And we also talked about Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size as a land. It's a colorless land, but again, it gives you that ability to keep those cards that you're drawing in your hand.
Yeah. So you notice that some of the cards were a little bit expensive as far as mana cost goes, but this little guy, Watcher of the Spheres, dump him in there, 2/2 for a blue and a white. He is going to help you. Creature spells with flying you cast cost 1 less to cast. So that's pretty awesome. And whenever another creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, this guy gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So he'll get buffed as you play more stuff.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about protection and counter spells to try and keep the board wipes down or other things that you need to deal with. There's only actually 3 in this deck, which is a little light on protection. So Dovin's Veto is an example of a counter spell that you could put in there that's not in there yet. It can't be countered itself, which is great. Nice. And then basically you counter target non-creature spells. So
yeah. And then we were thinking this little guy, a Curiosity Crafter Wizard. It's a 3/3 flyer for 3 and a blue that also gives you no maximum hand size. But another bonus on that is whenever a creature token you control deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. So you're going to have a lot of creature tokens out there. So here's another way to fill your hand with this guy here.
Yeah. And Defiler of Dreams for 5 is a 4/3 with flying. As an additional cost to cast blue permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. This spell costs 1 blue less to cast if you paid life this way. So it gives you some additional casting. It reduces only the amount of blue mana that you would pay. So you can only do that twice. But whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, you get to draw a card. So.
Well, it depends on, you can do it more than twice. Like if that creature
it
has
only
a
reduces
blue.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. I was thinking on this card as an example. Yeah.
Then Leslie had the brilliant idea of Authority of the Consuls in this deck. It's an enchantment that says creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you gain a life. So just to keep them, slow them down while you build up your board with all your big flyers.
Yeah, and you will become a target, so that's why we wanted to kind of like make it hard to attack you. So if they have haste, let's just slow that down a little bit. Windborne Muse is another great card for slowing them down a little bit. It's a 4 mana cost, 2/3 flying, so that takes advantage of your flyers. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller plays 2 for each one of those that they control that attack you. So when that goes on the battlefield, people don't like it and they like to get rid of it. But if you have Sephara out and it's indestructible, then it's going to make it harder for them.
Yeah.
So.
Or you have enchantments that are a little harder to get rid of. You don't usually have a lot of enchantment removal against you. Sphere of Safety. Leslie loves this card. It's for 4 and a white. It's a creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays X for each of those, where X is the number of enchantments you control. You have a few of those, so that could be bad.
Definitely. And Ghostly Prison. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. So again, same thing as Windborne Muse, but it's an enchantment. We also talked about, but I noticed we didn't put it in there, Propaganda. So while we're talking about those cards, I'm just going to bring it up here. So that we can talk about it as well. So basically, creatures can attack you. It's another enchantment, but it's blue. They can attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. So if you have a bunch of those types of cards in this deck, you stack them up and they have to pay multiple taxes, or if they get rid of it, you just bring another one out. So they will not like that.
Yeah. Because like we said at the beginning, you're going to be the target because you're the one with flyers. You're the one that's going to get in there. So they need to deal with you. So you're going to keep them from dealing with you because you're going to play a card like Anointed Procession. And if you have one, put it in this deck, because if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. Double the bird tokens, double the sculpture tokens. Crazy.
Yep. And back to protecting your creatures. Of course, this is a little bit more expensive ad, but if you have it, Teferi's Protection for 3 is an instant. Until the next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out, and then you exile Teferi's Protection. So when they play that board wipe or they try to do something crazy, you can just be like, you know what? I'm out. I'm not part of this game. Until the end of my next turn. I'll see you later.
Consecrated Sphinx. It's another Sphinx that you can add for 4 and 2 blue. It's a 4/6 flyer. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you can draw 2 cards if you want. Get some more cards in your hand.
This is one of my favorite cards to play. People don't like it. Anchor of Coronation for 6. It's a 5/5 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch, which gets you some extra card draw at the end of your turn if you continue to stay the monarch. And as long as you're the monarch, damage doesn't cause you to lose life. So they can attack you all they want, but it's not going to cause you to lose life, which is fantastic.
So they can't steal the monarch from you because they can't deal damage to you.
No, it says whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, its controller still becomes the monarch. That's why it doesn't say it doesn't do combat damage. Yeah. That's why they worded it with damage doesn't cause you to lose life, because they still do combat damage.
Still
it just
does the
doesn't.
damage. Okay. Yeah.
But then it's good because you get basically one free thing and then you just take it back.
Or you have all these things that make them pay to even attack you, right? So, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Helm of the Host, if you have one of these, this is a good place to put it as well. It's a 4-cost legendary artifact that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to create a token of a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary if equipped creature is legendary. And that token gains haste. So it's a good way to get another flyer to attack your best flyer.
It doesn't disappear at the end of the turn. You just keep making them. So
it stays.
It's awesome.
Copies everywhere.
Pride of the Clouds for 2 is a little 1/1. Pride of the Clouds gets +1/+1 for each other creature you in play with flying. So it's very similar. This is basically exactly the same as Skycat Sovereign. Except it has Forecast, which costs 4, and you can reveal it from your hand to put a 1/1 white and blue bird creature token with flying into play. So if you decide that you just want to keep it in your hand and get little white creature, white blue bird tokens, you can do that. I don't know that I would do that. That's a pretty high mana cost for a little 1/1 bird, but he gets nice and big, which is great.
Then there's this little non-flyer that's going to help you out a little bit, because the Grand Arbiter of Augustin the Fourth is a 2/3 human advisor that white spells you cast cost 1 less and blue spells cost 1 less. So that's really going to help you get those bigger flyers out. And spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast. So again, slowing them down, getting them off your back.
On Devout Invocation for 7, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield for each creature. Tap this way. So if you just decide, you know what? I don't want to attack this turn. I just want to turn all of my Thopters and all of my things, not even turning them in. They're just going to tap them all, and I'm going to create that many 4/4 white angels instead.
Yeah.
And now those are just sitting there waiting to block, and you're just going to spend a turn having a nice big board. Yeah.
Crazy.
Love it.
Divine Visitation.
Also
that could make this even worse, because if 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead.
Yeah.
So
and they have flying and vigilance, which is crazy.
Oh my god. That could be
Clone
crazy.
Legion for 9 is a sorcery. For each creature target player controls, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So you know what? Everybody else has a bunch of stuff. You're just going to play this and get a copy of everything on the board.
Yeah. Insane. Radiant Destiny. It's another one that we thought would be good in here. It's a little buffing up thing for 2 and a white. As Radiant Destiny enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Could be angels, could be birds, whatever you need. Creatures you control of the chosen type get 1/1. As long as you have the City's Blessing, they also have vigilance. So City's Blessing is you have to have at least 10 permanents on the battlefield. Pfft, no problem. You got that.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Super easy. Super easy.
Yeah.
So that's it for our tweaks this time. But again, we want to hear please from you what you would do with this deck to take it up to the next level, so to speak. Thank you so much for watching. You can find us, of course, you found us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitch. Feel free to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time.
Tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.